to start in about a minute.
Okay.
How are you, sir?
How are you?
Good.
Did you designate a couple people to be the money gatherers?
No, but I'll be happy to have you.
I'm happy to. I'm just thinking of who else to forget. Oh my God. It's,
Jerry is here. John Cook is here. You could pick somebody else. John.
yeah, I'm thinking of AJ.
Yeah, ask him.
Somebody who,
Just tell him we can't. Tell him we can't hear.
needs practice.
Say about a minute, we'll start.
You don't see anyone in the parking lot, so
I guess we can. Yeah, I guess we
yeah, I'm gonna do this and give us 30 seconds. Good morning. Welcome to the Treasure Coast Unitarian Universalist Congregation here in Stuart, Florida. Today is May 14th. My name is Janet Grote, and I'm your worship associate today. We are a welcoming congregation. We welcome people of all gender identities, ethnicities, ages, and backgrounds. We are on YouTube. YouTubers, hi. If you would like to be put on our email list, go to our website, tcuuc.org, and request that you get on that email list. For those of you who are members and watching on YouTube today, please make sure you say like. we need lots of people there. Remember to silence your cell phones? Visitors, if you are comfortable, please step up to the microphone and introduce yourselves. And we have one returning member. Irv Betts is going to reintroduce himself because we haven't seen him for a while. Over here, I should have got you better.
You have to speak Mexican here.
Okay, there we go.
Well, I became a member of the church here with my wife because on our way down, we got a phone call and the church asked my wife if she would become president of the church. And so we enjoyed many fine words from Bob, because Bob was beginning to preach here, and we loved to hear him preach, and we loved a lot of the people that were here. And so I spent about 2 years going to church with my wife. But I am now in Sand Hill Cove, and I'm there for permanently. And during the COVID, I couldn't leave. And now they don't like for me to go outside. So I'm pretty well situated there. I can't always get here, but my son is visiting me, and Tim Betts, and he's come down to be Tim, to come down to help me. And I appreciate this church. I knew the people that helped to build this church, especially this auditorium. They were also members in my community. So I can only tell you that Bob has been wonderful here. He's a tremendous pastor, a preacher, and just a person to know. God bless him. And thank you.
Welcome back. Next Sunday, May 21st, we will have our flower communion. So please bring a flower to make a floral array. This is a UU tradition. And also next Sunday, we're going to continue the first Sunday discussion on mental health struggles. Join us this next Tuesday at Stewart's Veterans Memorial Park downtown for our brown bag lunch. Big thanks to those who helped with the service. Of course, our Jackie Robbins and Judy Bajuras for the music, our greeter, Jackie Buckley, and our ushers. I know we've got Bill Falk and
I think AJ's been
AJ. Okay, thank you. And of course, Karina Poloni is our tech wizard back there. Margaret Gregory is in the kitchen for us today. And I think you figured out that Bob MacDonald is in our pulpit today. You know, here is our prelude.
This is called Songs My Mother Taught Me by Anton Dvorak.
of spiritual nurture, compassion, we give thanks. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. May our many sparks meet and merge in communion of the heart and soul. Happy Mother's Day. In 1872, Unitarian Julia Ward Howe began advocating for the creation of a Mother's Day for Peace. Howe, the author of the Battle Hymn of the Republic, became sickened by the bloodshed in the Civil War, and in 1870, she wrote a Mother's Day proclamation calling on women around the world to speak out for peace. Moving on, in 1914, Woodrow Wilson signed a congressional resolution establishing Mother's Day. In time, the day became to be marked in many other countries as well. Mother's Day is the most heavily attended Sunday in North American churches outside of Christmas and Easter. In Unitarian Universalist congregations, because while acknowledging that all women are not mothers, and not all of us know or have known our mothers, the day has become a day to mark the contributions of all women. Here are a few of our UU mothers to celebrate. Abigail Adams, wife of the President John Adams and mother of President John Quincy Adams, famously reminded her husband to remember the ladies. She said, "In the new code of laws, it will be necessary for you to make sure you remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors have been. Do not put such unlimited power into the hands of husbands." Mary Wollstonecraft, an English Unitarian married to a Unitarian minister, both prominent members of the Enlightenment, she wrote The Vindication of the Rights of Women in 1792. She was the mother of Mary Shelley, of Frankenstein fame. Susan B. Anthony, the voice of the early women's rights movement, was arrested for casting a vote in 1872. Louisa May Alcott, Little Women. Florence Nightingale was born to English Unitarian parents and credited with the foundation of modern nursing following her experiences in the Crimean War, that war in the 1850s. Mary Moody Emerson is considered to be the grandmother of transcendentalism. She largely raised her nephew, Ralph Waldo, who embraced her writings and her spirituality. Lucy Stone was a noted Unitarian feminist and abolitionist, known as the first woman to keep her own name after marriage. Olympia Brown was the first woman minister whose ordination was recognized by any religious denomination, the Universalists, in 1863. Brown was also an advocate for women's rights. Viola Gregg Luiso, a UU layperson, mother of 5, passionate about racial justice issues, traveled to Selma, Alabama, to participate in the March of 1965. While transporting marchers in her car, she was shot and killed by members of the Ku Klux Klan. Today, she is remembered as a martyr of the civil rights movement. We do have an enlightened history, and soon we will be moving forward with the 8th principle, moving to disable racism. Stay tuned in June for the General Assembly. Now we're going to have our first hymn, Stand if you would like. It is number 108, My Life Flows in an Endless Song. Now for our affirmation. We're going to speak the first verse and sing the second. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
The responsive reading is 648. About the mother we all share. Beginners. But we have only begun to love the earth. We have only begun to imagine the fullness of life. How could we tire of hope? So much is in bud. How can desire fail? We have only begun to imagine justice and mercy, only begun to envision how it might be to live as siblings with beast and flower, not as oppressors. Surely our river cannot already be hastening into the sea of non-being. Surely it cannot drag in the silt all that is innocent. Not yet, not yet. There is too much broken that must be mended, too much hurt that we have done to each other that cannot yet be forgiven. We have only begun to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes in the communion of struggle. So much is unfolding that must complete its measure. So much is in bud. Now, for today, I've added a children's story that's really for adults. I'm sure you've heard it before. I suspect you've used it before. It's The Warm Fuzzy Tale by Claude Steiner. I'm reading most of it. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there lived two happy people called Tim and Maggie with their two children, John and Lucy. To understand how happy they were, you have to understand how things were in those days. You see, in those happy days, everyone was given a small, soft, fuzzy bag when born. Anytime a person reached into this bag, they were able to pull out a warm fuzzy. Warm fuzzies were very much in demand because whenever someone was given a warm fuzzy, it made them feel warm and fuzzy all over. In those days, it was very easy to get warm fuzzies. Anytime that somebody felt like it, he might walk up to you and say, "I'd like to have a warm fuzzy." You would then reach into your bag and pull out a fuzzy the size of a child's hand. As soon as the fuzzy saw the light of day, it would smile and blossom into a large, shaggy, warm fuzzy. When you laid the warm fuzzy on the person's head, shoulder, or lap, it would snuggle up and melt right against their skin and make them feel good all over. People were always asking each other for warm fuzzies, and since they were always given freely, getting enough of them was never a problem. There were always plenty to go around. So everyone was happy and felt warm and fuzzy most of the time. One day, a bad witch who made salves and potions for sick people became angry because everyone was so happy and feeling good, and no one was buying potions and salves. The witch was very clever and devised a very wicked plan. One beautiful morning, while Maggie was playing with her daughter, the witch crept up to Tim and whispered in his ear, "See here, Tim, look at all the fuzzies that Maggie is giving to Lucy. You know, if she keeps it up, she's going to run out, and then there won't be any left for you." Tim was astonished. He turned to the witch and asked, "Do you mean to tell me that there isn't a warm fuzzy in our bag every time we reach into it?" And the witch answered, "No, absolutely not. And once you run out, that's it. You don't have any anymore." With this, the witch flew away on a broom, laughing and cackling all the way. Tim took this to heart and began to notice every time Maggie gave away a warm fuzzy. He got very worried because he liked Maggie's warm fuzzies very much and did not want to give them up. He certainly did not think it was right for Maggie to be spending all her warm fuzzies on the children and other people. Tim began to complain or sulk when he saw Maggie giving warm fuzzies to somebody else. And because Maggie loved him very much, she stopped giving warm fuzzies to other people as often and reserved most of them for him. The children watched this and soon began to get the idea that it was wrong to give warm fuzzies any time you were asked or felt like it. They too became very careful. Now, the situation got very complicated since the coming of the witch because there were fewer and fewer warm fuzzies around, and warm fuzzies, which used to be free as air, became extremely valuable. This caused people to do all sorts of things in order to get warm fuzzies. People who could not find a generous partner had to buy their warm fuzzies and had to work long hours to earn the money. Some people became popular and got a lot of warm fuzzies without having to give any back. Not long ago, a young woman with big hips I think this story is pre-woke. Hips are good, came to this unhappy land. She seemed not to have heard about the bad witch and was not worried about running out of warm fuzzies. She gave them out freely, even when not asked. They called her the hip woman and disapproved of her because she was giving the children the idea that they should not worry about running out of warm fuzzies. The children liked her very much because they felt good around her, and they began to follow her example, giving out warm fuzzies whenever they felt like it. This made the grown-ups very worried. To protect the children from depleting their supplies of warm fuzzies, they passed a law. The law made it a criminal offense to give out warm fuzzies in a reckless manner or without a license. Many children, however, seem not to care, and in spite of the law, they continue to give each other warm fuzzies whenever they felt like it, and always when asked. Because they were many children, almost as many as the grown-ups, it began to look as if maybe they would have their way. As of now, it is hard to say what will happen. Consider yourself given a warm fuzzy. And now our time of joys and sorrows. We ask you to share yours in the hope that you will know you have been heard and are supported. We ask that they be brief and that they be personal. I'll start by telling you that our friend John Brown, who fills in here often when I'm not here, informed me that his wife Maggie has bone cancer and has to be treated for that. And they're fairly confident about the treatment, but they have to find out if inside the bone there is also cancer, and that's the question mark and the great concern. So our thoughts and prayers are with John and Maggie as they see this through, hopefully to a good conclusion. Anyone else with a matter to be shared? Yes, Jackie.
Jackie Buckley, the other Jackie. I have a joy to share that this past week I got to see my younger son David give his first sermon in a Unitarian church in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and it was a real treat. I can say that on Mother's Day, I think.
I have a joy to share. On Tuesday, I get my external stitches removed, and my pathology report was great. So, all margins are clear.
Regina.
I have two. One is for an old and dear friend, Claire, who is in the Jupiter Hospital, and wishing loving and healing thoughts for her and her sons. And the other one is our fourth grandchild to graduate from high school is coming up. And she informed us that she is going to get a business degree. And we asked her what she wanted to do, and she said she's going to be a manager for a rock star, for a rock group. So we're going to support her in whatever her dreams are.
All right.
Bob told me I wasn't allowed to do this. I'm Pat Burt, but I have many years' history of not listening to him about everything, although many things I do. First of all, I'm looking forward to leaving the end of this week for almost 3 weeks of a long trip to the Northeast with my son to drop him with his father, to visit his father for a week in Rochester, his father who's in very poor health and is, although my first husband, one of my favorite people on earth. The trip as a whole I'm describing as a visit to 3 friends and 3 cemeteries, which sounds like a comedy routine. But that's something I've been looking forward to for a long time. And then the final thing is, go Heat!
Thank you for your self-control, Pat.
I'm Pam Corbin, and my joy is that we got to eat at Roger Head's house. And I can't tell you how much fun it was for Roger to have 3 women at his gated community show up, and we didn't see one neighbor peeking at us, but wondering why Roger had all these women at his house. We asked Jackie to come at the last minute, and it was myself, Jackie, and a neighbor named Catherine. But my theme is, please invite somebody to dinner. There are people in this church that need to be around other people. Invite somebody to dinner.
There you go, Jack Cassidy. You can have 3 women show up and they'll cook you dinner. Anyone else? Well, we always move one for those that haven't been said out loud, but we know we all have people we care about, worry about. For the meditation, I've chosen this in the back of our hymnal by Wendell Berry, The Larger Circle. Today, for many reasons, reminds us of those before us who hold on to us, and those after us who hopefully will feel held on to. The larger circle. We clasp the hands of those that go before us, and the hands of those who come after us. We enter the little circle of each other's arms, and the larger circle of lovers whose hands are joined in a dance, and the larger circle of all creatures, passing in and out of life, who move also in a dance, to a music so subtle and vast that no ear hears it, except in fragments. Wendell Berry, The Larger Circle. And now moments of silence. And now the hymn is 123, Spirit of Life. We remain seated, we hum the verse, we sing the verse. We hope that all who come here feel the joy and the generosity of spirit. And we want you to know we need your generosity back. And so now the morning offering plate will be presented to you. Thank you. I'm pretty sure you won't hear that at the UUA, so you heard it here. And now there'll be a choral video, I hope. This was suggested by Ken Texera, I believe.
Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water, when God's gonna trouble the water. Come on and wade in the water, you gotta wade. Dressed up in white, God's gonna trouble the water. You know they must be the children of the Israelites. God's gonna trouble the water. Well, now you wanna wade in the water. See those children dressed in black. God's gonna trouble the water. You know, they come a long way, ain't turning back. No, no, no. See the children, they're dressed up in blue. You know my God's gonna trouble the water. Yeah, see it looks like my people, they're coming on through. Well, my God's gonna trouble the water. Well, everybody knows wait in the water. Children, wait in the water. Children, wait in the water. My God's gonna trouble the water. See those children dressed in red. My God, He's must free the children that Moses led. My God, God's gonna trouble the water. See those children all dressed in green. God's gonna trouble the water. You know they're moving down to that Jordan stream. Well, God's gonna trouble the water. Come on, down in the water, my children. In the water, my children. Wade in the some say Peter and some say Paul. My God, well, you know there ain't but one God made us all. God's gonna trouble the water. Everybody ought to just wait on the water. Wait in the water. Wait in the water. Children, wait in the water. My children, wait in the water. You know my God's gonna trouble the water. Wait, my God's gonna trouble the water. I know my God's gonna trouble the water. My God's gonna trouble. Well, my God's gonna trouble the water. God is gonna trouble the water.
I won't repeat my annual spiel because I've told you many times that my denomination of origin on the second Sunday of May celebrates family or nurture. I guess it really wasn't of origin because my family didn't have a denomination, so my brother and I picked the nearest church we could walk to. The welcome kept us coming. Many denominations let the country, the florists, the candy companies, and the jewelers celebrate another theme. And the restaurants, I read online yesterday that brunch today at the Breakers in West Palm, guess how much? $2.50 per. $2.50 per. You should call before you go. $2.50 per person. Yeah, it was only $180 last year. It's gone up. But now, Irv, I've seen you at the buffets on the cruise ships, so you might be tempted to go down there, but think about it. There used to be a billboard, I don't know if there still is, at the border of Grafton, West Virginia, broadcasting Home of Mother's Day. A number of denominations also suggest emphasizing family and nurture. Maybe they've heard what I have heard in nearly all the Methodist churches I led, and I've heard here. If you're going to talk on the national theme, let me know in advance. I'll skip it. I've never asked why, but some have told me it's too emotional, or they grieve deeply already and don't come to worship to stir that over and over again. Some have even told me whatever topic I'm on, if I pick a hymn that was sung at their parents' funeral, bathroom break time. Bathroom breaks are good. I have told more than one I can't solicit from people what hymns never to sing for emotional reasons. Music and emotions go together, often pretty powerfully. Ain't that right, Jackie? Yeah. I have learned that most congregations want help with grief. Grief is universal. And when you've lost a piece of your heart, parent, sibling, child, it never entirely lets go of you. But you can get help moving on with your life, as the one you lost would certainly want for you. So I should really call this the gifts of family. I've come to appreciate how much my family gave me from the very beginning. I used to think we were poor compared to the school crowd I attached myself to and competed with. I discovered I was richer than I knew. That became increasingly true. Not so much in the first decades, the first 5 or 6 or 7 decades. OMG. I used to blame my family for making me feel the need to hang out or stalk the self-help aisles of Barnes & Noble, Borders, and the library. I found and loved W. Hugh Misseldine's Your Inner Child of the Past. I had done some amateur archaeology. Surely I could dig up or root canal that kid I was or remain and just love it better. I consumed Eric Burns' Games People Play and was sure he nailed original sin more clearly than any theology I knew. He said one of the original or the primary games of people play, mine is better than yours. It may sound cute when a little kid says what my daddy can do to your daddy, but it's not cute when grown-ups apply it to their religion and feel free to diss anybody else's. Ditto Thomas Harris, I'm okay, you're okay, and everything in that school of self-help, like Claude Steiner. The most help I got was a sermon by the Reverend Dr. William Sloane Coffin, the silver-tongued Yale chaplain, anti-war radical to the right and saint to the left. His sermon title at Riverside Church, NYC, I'm not okay and you're not okay, but that's okay, meaning we are human and pieces of work to do, not finished works of art until, well, finished. I decided my time in those aisles was about done when I read Transformations. I think the author, Roger Gould. He wrote something like, a sign of maturity or maturation is you realizing you're more like the parent you said you would never be like, but you are. And that's okay. Actually, a good thing. Maybe I stopped going to the self-help aisles because that was a little like the truth setting me free, but first making me miserable. So, the first gift of family is your identity. Usually you get a name and a family of origin, and they tell you who you are. And sometimes you are told to behave so as not to bring shame on the last part of your name. For me, the problem with that had a whole lot to do with whom I look like. I don't mean Curly's song in Oklahoma, he better look a lot like me, the spitting image, he better look a lot like me. Not about who's the parent, but how much of that parent is in you. I've told you that my father was gone from us when I was 1. He was called Scotty, and my mother, married at 17, soon learned that he had more Scotch than Scott in him. She was devoted to us. I know she had been told that her life could more easily start over if we were given up. Fortunately for us, no way. I learned pretty early on that my father was like the town drunk. He was written up in the paper more than once. We had a fairly large extended family of first and second cousins. And on many occasions, this little kid heard, "You look exactly like." I wasn't evolved enough to be able to say, I don't want to look like anybody except my mother. Is it fair that my older brother gets to look like my mother? Surely you've always wondered where that phrase, spitting image, comes from. I couldn't help myself from Google. No version of the phrase is especially old. The earliest reference is in Andrew Knapp and W. Baldwin's The Newgate Calendar, 1825. A daughter, the very spit of the old captain. Spit, or dead spit, with the meaning of likeness, appears several times in the 19th century. Here, dead means precise or exact, as in dead ringer. Other languages have their own versions. French, c'est le portrait caché de son père, the spitting portrait of his father. And Norwegian, som snit ut av nesen pa, as blown out of the nose of. All right, now we are in TMI, somewhere between informative and gross. So the answer is I don't get to choose whom I look like, but I do get to fill in the picture for myself. The second gift of family, if you had siblings, and I suspect if you were an only, was self-defense. My 3-year older brother and I fought a lot. I guess we were vying for Mom's attention. Fortunately, we didn't know the story of Cain and Abel. Larry was merciless with comments like, "Of course I'm smarter than you. Why else would I be 3 years ahead of you in school?" Tired Mom just said, "If you're going to fight, go to the yard." We spent a lot of time in the yard. The rough and housing beginning cast a long-term shadow. Respect came easily with families and careers, but affection suffered. We never got or took the better spent adult time in the yard, burgers, cigars, man-yard talk. We didn't get that. Cancer took them before we could talk about what was going on with all that little boy stuff. I have known a lot of adult siblings and a few who seem to genuinely like each other. But life often just carves out different places and paths, and you really don't get to know the people you grew up with. And too often the door seems shut with, "I know all I need to or want to." Which suggests to me the major gift of family, and that's the importance of forgiveness. You may not get the feel of it or the fact of it when you are young. That often comes late, if it comes at all. But nobody like family teaches you you can't hold on to every slight or low blow word. If you do, you may feel right, but you also lose. If you're going to have a relationship with anyone in your past, you're going to have a well-worn delete button in your head. What you hold on to holds on to you. As the late, great Desmond Tutu taught the world with the National Forgiveness Program of South Africa after that horrific racist policy, apartheid, if you can't forgive, you can't move on. So forgiving someone you find it hard to forgive is not just for them. It certainly doesn't feel right, but it feels true beyond explanation that the worst, most hurtful arrows seem to come from those we help to make and to raise. That means in my advancing years, when I know I have become at least 50% of older and wiser, one remaining gift of family is my choosing to figure out and to practice a forgiving spirit. I don't want to bumper sticker my late in life and more than slightly painful realization, you know. You can imagine a sticker saying something like, I'm trying to teach my kids, you gotta forgive, but then I can't drive to their house. Elders in many cultures pass down wisdom. That's one of the responsibilities of eldership. And you can live better with yourself and RIP if you know you tried to show the love and you tried to show the forgiveness. You can't do more than that. For my last birthday, make that for my most recent birthday, one of my sisters sent me a mug. She had invested in a machine to print on fabric, wood, and ceramic. The mug says, "Of course I'm right, I'm Bob." And a note came with it saying, "It doesn't apply to your politics." She reminds me I started out pretty self-righteous. I used to say to my first future in-laws, "You'll have to agree with me." Until they figured out, saying in front of their loved one, not me, "No, we don't." So the goal with those closest is not to be right. It's got to be a lot humbler than that. Hopefully, it's more than words can convey and needn't. Our closing hymn is 95, There's More Love Somewhere.
Karina?
Do you have to wake her up?
Bring the volume up on that.
Oh.
Yeah, thanks. So we can hear it.
Let's as the chalice is extinguished, these words from Dag Hammarskjöld. Each morning we must hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and give back. Dag Hammarskjöld.
Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day.